The São Miguel lay anchored in dawn's grey light, hull creaking, masts silent. It was a Portuguese caravel, modest, 3 masts of dark oak, sails of hemp still darkened from sea spray, and 40 souls bound for uncharted waters off the coast of Brazil. Captain Martin Veloso, 45, stood on the quarterdeck, cloak drawn tight. His face was weathered, eyes distant, as if he already mourned them. There were no grand speeches, no blessing ceremonies, only the sway of rigging and the low murmur of waves. Below deck, the crew stirred. Sleep-bound sailors roused themselves in the dim lantern light, hammocks swaying gently above crates of salted fish and humid barrels of water. The air was thick with anticipation, and that deeper weight no sea can wash away. A small boy, Iago, perhaps the same from earlier, handed out cups of lukewarm broth. Faces lit by its faint warmth, men blinked at each other. Some forced a smile, many did not. For this voyage carried a name in its wake, São Miguel. It carried rumours of crews who never returned, of charts marked with crosses at their last known position, of silent waves covering secrets no reef or storm disclosed. Captain Veloso signalled the anchor to be raised. The bell rang once, twice. The São Miguel lifted off the mud and set sail. For 2 weeks, nothing unusual happened. Trade winds carried them southwest. Dawn broke each day with gull calls and sun-split waves. The crew fell into routine. Ropes coiled, decks scrubbed, food cooked, nails replaced. Iago sang soft tunes. Teo, the cook, prepared porridge spiced with pepper and clams dredged from the sea. Nights brought talks of home, of children, of land. Fear stayed dormant, but maps began to mislead. The navigator, Thomas, again, a recurring soul, noted currents pulling them deeper. Stars slipped behind clouds. Compasses wavered. At night, travellers muttered of shadows on the water, shapes that vanished with a blink. Then came the first sign. Fishermen's nets tangled around the bow, though no nets were cast. The crew hauled in torn rope and bleached driftwood. At midday, a raft appeared on the horizon, too uniform for random flotsam. Men approached. It held a single barrel, no flag, no markings, no floating ghost, only the barrel, bobbing, silent. They dragged it aboard. Inspecting it, they found someone's initials, RP1518. No one in the crew carried that name. They left the barrel on deck as a warning. Crossing into mysterious currents that carried unknown cargo, unlike any fish or driftwood. Then at night, on the 16th day, the lantern above Iago dimmed. He reached to relight it. A labourer blocked his way, amber eyes distant. "They wait," the sailor whispered. "Wait, for what?" the boy asked. "For us?" he replied, voice small. Iago fell silent. From below deck came a thump, not loud, but a pound that echoed in chest and hearts. No one spoke. The crew paused. The São Miguel creaked. Lanterns swayed. At dawn, a man was missing. Not washed overboard, not sick, simply gone. His hammock empty, the hammock strap clean, though he should have left marks. Blood no trace, no struggle. They called his name. Nothing returned except distant gull cry. That night, 2 more vanished, in their bunks. Sheets drawn, meals half eaten. No noise, no cries, no notes. Men slept, but not truly. Captain Veloso called a meeting. He looked haggard. So did Thomas. Teo's hands shook. Iago sat in a corner, clutching his broth. "We're off course," Veloso said quietly. "Not just on the map, but on something deeper. I want ideas, warnings, omens, anything." One sailor, a tall man named Rui, spoke in a quiet, cracked voice. "They were taken. By land, by tribe, by forests we cannot see." Another old João replied. "Or by sea, maybe by the spirits." Veloso didn't argue. Instead, he commanded prayers. He lit candles and called for confession. The crew knelt. They named sins and fears alike. They pledged to sail until all returned, or until silence swallowed them. Still, nothing came. The sea remained dumb. The ship's wake faded. The compass spun unpredictably. Each night, footsteps echoed in cargo holds. Each dawn, someone missing. 3 days later, they reached a cluster of islands, unknown, jagged, fog-shrouded. Not on any map. No birds sang, but the air was thick with scent. Mould, moss, something older. Veloso said, "We land!" They dropped anchor in still water. Longboats lowered. Iago, Thomas, Rui, and 6 others rowed to shore. The beach was smooth black stone. Stones shaped unnaturally. No shells, no birds, insects, only deathly silence. Inland they found ruins. Wooden posts, rotted, tents long gone. Bones, child-sized, adult, scattered. Carved symbols on posts marking numbers XXX. Days they survived. No animals, no fruit, no signs of life. On an altar lay a carved sigil, an hourglass rimmed with rope. Time running out. They fled, back to the ship. The sea changed when they returned. Under the hull, black tendrils drifted, shadows. They seemed to push, to knock. When they lowered the boat the next morning, a sailor found the barrel again, floating at the rowing oars, with its lid pried open, emptied and refilled with sand. The crew stared at it. No one emptied it. No one touched it. That night, they all dreamed of being buried in sand while the São Miguel sailed on, with no crew aboard. Dawn came, and the crew found the ship empty. Longboats gone, lanterns unlit, sails slack. No footsteps, not even the cat. The only noise, the gentle slap of waves against the hull. The ship drifted. No mast, no life. Below deck, the cabin showed signs of disruption. Maps thrown on the floor, ink spilled, journals torn, but no bodies. Captain Veloso, Thomas, Teo, Rui, all gone. Only Iago remained. Eyes wide, he sat in the captain's cabin, clutching a dry piece of manuscript. No words written on it. He said nothing. They never came back. The São Miguel drifted, windless, crewless, lifeless, except for one, Iago. A boy of 15, maybe. He sat cross-legged on the captain's cot, blank eyes staring through salt-stained panes. Outside, the ocean stretched for miles, unmoving. Around him, disarray. Boots toppled. Ink pooled in the captain's log. Charts torn and scattered like autumn leaves. There was no sound. Not even the hull's creak. The ship had become a floating coffin. Or something worse. A question with no answer. On the 6th day after the vanishings, another ship spotted the São Miguel, a Spanish galleon, Santa Lucia, en route to Havana. They approached under suspicion, piracy perhaps. The São Miguel sailed too smoothly for a ghost ship, but no flags were raised, no calls returned. Captain Alvaro Galeano sent 5 men by skiff. They boarded. No resistance, no shouts. Just the boy. Iago, pale, thin, dry lips moving without sound. The Spanish found no blood, no signs of violence, no spoiled food, no spoiled water, only a barrel sealed, then opened and filled with sand, and a small bundle of cloth. Inside, the left boot of Captain Martin Veloso, its sole untouched. No mud, no blood, just a sprig of moss inside. Captain Galeano asked questions. Iago said nothing, he only stared. Eventually he spoke one word, hollow. When asked what it meant, he whispered, "We stepped ashore, and something stepped aboard." They towed the São Miguel to Havana. Priests examined it, so did naturalists, so did cartographers. All said the same, no explanation. The ship's timbers were aged but intact. The barrels and crates full, but untouched. But the air? Heavy, like morning. And in the captain's journal, a single phrase, "We are being remembered." No explanation. Over the months, stories leaked. Sailors spoke of footsteps heard aboard at night, even docked, of knots that came undone by morning, of distant chanting below deck when no one was there. They burned incense, crossed themselves, poured salt water through the cracks, but the São Miguel remained off, as though it didn't belong to the sea anymore, or to men. Then came the dreams. Dock workers who had never stepped aboard began to see it in sleep. A black beach, a jungle of stone, figures with eyes carved into their chests, and a voice, not cruel, not angry, just patient. Repeating a question. Where did you go? Why did you come? The Spanish crown ordered the ship scuttled, burned to the waterline. But no fire caught, not even pitch-soaked sails. Axes bounced from the hull like it was iron. A storm rolled in suddenly. The wind howled from the east, the direction the São Miguel had returned from. 3 men drowned trying to cut the rigging. 1 washed ashore, lungs filled with silt, not seawater. Eventually, they did the only thing they could. They towed the ship out into open waters, left it adrift with only one thing aboard, Iago, still seated in the captain's quarters, still alive, still whispering. The words changed, but the tone remained. He promised to return. They wait beneath. Don't answer the drums. Weeks passed. A merchant vessel spotted the São Miguel once more. Farther south now, still drifting, still whole. No crew, no boy, only a single light swinging from the mizzenmast. No fire, just glow. Pale blue. And that's when the stories changed. From report to rumour. From mystery to myth. From truth to fear. Ships began to report it, always just on the horizon. Never in the same place twice. A ghost silhouette, still flying no flag, still perfectly intact. Some claimed it sailed without wind, others claimed it passed through storms untouched. A few said they saw figures aboard, standing silently at the railings, never waving, never blinking, only watching. Sailors gave it a new name, the listening ship. Because that's what it felt like. That it heard you before you saw it, that it remembered voices that never came back, that it was waiting for one name, one soul, to answer back, and that once you did, you'd vanish too. By 1550, the São Miguel was officially stricken from all registries, its wood, its voyages, its captain erased from royal memory, no medals, no mentions, only warnings carved into dock posts. If you see the ship with no sails, turn back. If it drifts towards you, make no sound. If you hear drums below the waves, do not anchor. But those warnings came too late, because the real fear wasn't the sea, it wasn't the storm, it wasn't even the vanishing. It was that the São Miguel was not dead. It had become a thing of memory, a vessel of silence, a place that carried something back from the shore men should never have walked on, and they never came back. Not because they were lost, but because the ocean would not let them return, unchanged. They called it Ilha do Esquecimento, the island of forgetting. It wasn't on the charts, not really, just a smear of ink where no land should be, sometimes west of Fernando de Noronha, other times east of the Guianas. Every sailor who saw it gave it a different shape, but always the same feeling. Unwelcome, and those who tried to draw it found their ink would fade, their maps would wrinkle. Some even bled through the page, as if the island itself refused to be remembered. And yet, some returned. Not many, but enough. A Dutch vessel in 1594, a French cutter in 1608, a slave ship gone adrift, found weeks later by fishermen, its crew raving about the trees with faces, and the mouth of stone that hums. Each crew left behind a single survivor, and each survivor told the same tale. They found the island, they stepped ashore, and something stepped into them. So when whispers arose that the São Miguel may have made landfall there, historians grew quiet. This wasn't treasure, it wasn't conquest. It was a wound, and wounds that are picked never heal. A Jesuit account resurfaces. In 1632, a sealed letter was uncovered in a monastery in Braga. It was written by Father Elias Martel, dated 1522. The letter, yellowed and ink-smudged, told of his time ministering in Recife. There he met a boy, mute, wild-eyed, scarred from salt and sun. The locals called him Filho da Nau Perdida, son of the lost ship. They believed he was the cabin boy from the São Miguel. He speaks in drawings, Elias wrote. He scratches symbols into the sand. Eyes, circles, a man with no hands, standing before a tree with roots shaped like teeth. At night, he screams in a tongue I do not recognize. I burned the sheets he slept in, but still, the scent of moss and brine remains. He told me, in gesture and image, of an island. He called it a boca do mundo, the mouth of the world. He says they followed the drums, and the drums followed them back. What were the drums? No record says, but they appear in almost every retelling. Hollow beats in the soil, beneath the waterline, never seen, only felt, as if the island had a heartbeat, one that called the São Miguel ashore and wouldn't let it go. Portuguese investigation, 1664. Curiosity turned official in 1664, when Dom Rodrigo de Souza, a Portuguese noble and amateur cartographer, mounted a secret expedition. He believed he had found the true coordinates of the São Miguel's final anchorage. He paid a crew, supplied a galleon, and set sail, against orders. He never returned, but his valet, Francisco Moraes, did, alone, floating on driftwood, dehydrated, half mad. What he said chilled even hardened explorers. We found the island. It was there, as clear as noon. The sand was black. The sky, too still. No birds. No wind. And the smell, like old blood. The captain ordered us ashore. The men hesitated. Then we heard the sound. Drums. From under the sand. From inside the trees. The trees have faces. We walked too far inland. Then we found the São Miguel's anchor, buried in the soil. No ship, just the anchor, upright, like a grave marker. And then, the trees began to move, not like wind, like breath. I ran. I don't remember how I got to sea, only that I left footprints. And when I turned around, there were 2 sets. What did he mean? 2 sets? Some believe the island mimics, copies. Others say it doesn't need to. That it becomes you. That once you step onto its soil, you are no longer yours to command. Survivors' markings. Recovered wrecks later revealed symbols carved into planks. Hourglasses. Faces with no mouths. Trees whose roots wrapped around human skulls. Aboard one sloop, the entire galley was painted black, and over the cook's station, the words, "We fed something, it feeds still," in French, in Dutch, in Portuguese. Each time, the same phrase. How did the São Miguel get involved? The last known records state it was meant to map trade winds and resupply the colony at Bahia. It was never meant to chart new land. Captain Martin Veloso wasn't a pioneer, he was a courier, but he carried something others didn't. A curiosity, a defiance, or maybe just bad luck. And when they landed, some believe they found ruins, others a living settlement, ancient, pulsing with memory. But the most chilling theory, that they were expected, that the island wasn't forgotten, it was waiting for a ship, a name, a voice, and it remembered theirs. Today, the island is gone. Not even a satellite blip. Some say it sank. Others say it was never land, but a hallucination. A myth seeded by fear. But seafarers still whisper when waters grow still and winds fall flat. If the compass spins and the stars go silent, turn back. Because there are shores not meant to be walked. Islands not meant to be mapped. Places that speak only in drum beats and silence, and take what they are owed. They say the ocean forgets, that it swallows everything. Ships, names, wars, bones. But that's not true. Not for the São Miguel. Not for the ones who vanished. Because she remembers. And she still sails. The first reappearance came in 1702. A merchant brig out of Cadiz was crossing calm waters when its captain, Manuel Lopez, spotted a vessel on the horizon. No flag, no movement, just drifting. He approached out of caution. It was the São Miguel. Same hull markings, same figurehead, a cracked wooden angel, same worn name carved into the stern. But it shouldn't exist. Burned, scuttled, erased, and yet there she was, pristine. Lopez hailed it. No reply. They watched for 2 hours as it drifted past, cutting through the sea without wind. No crew on deck. Just a single lantern, lit at midday. The ocean around her was flat, unnaturally so, as though even the sea held its breath. Other sightings followed. 1751, a British privateer spots her near the West African coast. 1829, a whaler chases her ghostly trail off the Azores. They say her sails were full, but the air was still. 1904, the crew of a Russian expedition finds her floating amid icebergs, untouched by frost. Inside, they claim, were boot prints, still wet. Every sailor said the same thing. The São Miguel wasn't sailing, she was searching. And what was she searching for? Names, voices, memories. Some think she's drawn to those who remember, even faintly, the land she came from, even in dreams, even in story, because what was brought back from that cursed shore wasn't cargo or gold, it was awareness, a kind of memory that outlived the men who first carried it, a hunger not for food, but for return. They tried to destroy her again, several times. Fires wouldn't catch. Cannonballs passed through her sails like fog. Once, a salvage team boarded her to strip for wood. None returned. The wreckage washed ashore, months later. Timbers carved with symbols no one could translate, except one priest, a Jesuit from Italy. He wept upon seeing them and said, "She sails for the ones who forgot her name, and one day she will find them." The curse of recognition. It is said that if you speak her name at sea, and your voice quivers even slightly, she will find you, not out of rage, not for revenge, but to remind you of the shore, of the shadowed trees, of the anchor standing like a tombstone, of the drumming in the deep. What happened to Iago, the boy who returned alone? No grave, no portrait, but stories persist, that he walked from town to town, always near water, that he never spoke again except in dreams. And those who shared a roof with him reported the same nightmare. A beach of black sand, a forest with no birds, and a ship with its sails unfurled under a starless sky. Aboard the São Miguel, time does not pass. The clocks don't tick, the candles never burn out, the ropes stay tight. It is a vessel between centuries, between names, between the known and the forgotten. And when she appears, sailors fall silent. Because she does not ask for fear. She asks for silence. She asks to be remembered. They say her final voyage hasn't ended. Because the crew is still aboard. Not in flesh, in presence. You feel them in the cold corners of your bunk. In the way the lanterns flicker, even when there's no breeze. In the way your own name feels distant, the longer you stare at her. And perhaps that's the truth. The São Miguel didn't lose her crew. She became them, their memories, their silence, their longing to be understood, even as a world tried to forget. She isn't haunted, she is the haunting. Today, you may still see her. Not with your eyes, but in your mind. On nights when the sea is too quiet. When your compass spins without cause. When you dream of footsteps on wet wood and wake to none but your own. And if she comes for you, if you see her, adrift, uncrewed, perfect, do not board, do not speak, do not remember, because once you do, you are hers. They never came back, not because they died, not because they were taken, but because the São Miguel remembers, and she will never let go.